And so here we are. Good morning and welcome, everybody. It is a joy to be here on this very festive Sunday. As you know, we have our family fun fest afterwards, and there's great fun already happening in there in Richelieu Hall, and I look forward to joining you in there. And I ask you to bear with the the lack of air conditioning today, because we're working on it. We're getting in the new air conditioners. They've been working on it all week. They'll be working on it this week, and let's all know they'll be finished by next Sunday. And in the meantime, just know that God is my cool. God is my cool. God never sweats, and neither do I. That's what I know. God is always at ease. And so with that, we're looking at always open and available to believing in the impossible. And to know that every good thing is possible. Every single good thing is possible. Now, it's not anything new for you and for me to hear this. But I want us all to get it more fully and more deeply today. Because really, if we truly believed it, our lives wouldn't be the way they are, as great as they are. We'd be all walking on water, my dears. And because we could, we wouldn't bother. We wouldn't bother. We'd enjoy taking the boat. But that's where we have to be with regard to our teaching. Because in our teaching, we believe that everything is possible. Everything is possible. And that's the nutshell of it all. Do I believe that everything is possible? Well, not just, it wouldn't be according to just human endeavor. A lot is possible according to human endeavor, but not everything is possible. So for the impossible, or what appears to be the impossible, you and I have to be connected and in touch with that which is greater than we are, more of us, that infinite intelligence that's always available to us. You see, there was a time when lots of things were impossible that are now possible. I think when Jules Verne wrote his book about the journey to the moon, nobody was believing for a minute that one day we would get to the moon, walk on the moon, and come back from the moon. And yet we've done that. But not only have we done that, we're getting ready now to go to Mars. There was a time when people thought airplanes. No, I don't think so. That's not possible. And yet we fly all around the place nowadays. Not only that, there you have Branson and co. getting ready to take us into outer space as entertainment. You know, the ordinary everyday person can go to space on vacation now. And so what was possible, what wasn't possible yesterday is very possible today, and more will be possible tomorrow. And it's the same about today. What you and I may think is impossible today, tomorrow will be just ordinary. But we have to get to tomorrow before it actually arrives. And that's what the law of assumption is all about. Have you noticed we've been studying that for 2 months now? The law of assumption. Why? Because that's where it all begins and is the middle and the end. The law of assumption. It's all about the law of assumption, assuming you're good already in place. That's what they've all been telling us since time immemorial. Emmett Fox this morning, somebody read a reading at the 9 o'clock from the Golden Key. Take your mind off your problem and put your mind on God. Because if your mind is on God, your mind is on the infinite. Your mind is on wholeness. Your mind is on fullness. Your mind is on anything could happen. When your mind is on God, which is infinite life itself, infinite possibility itself. And that's what we're called to do. But you and I are so caught up in ruminating over our worries and our concerns and our challenges and our problems and so on and so forth. We just settle down in them, and we forget that we cannot move ahead or realize our good at the level of a problem. We can't stay at the level of the problem and reach the solution. It's impossible. So we have to start at the end, the end, the end, the end, the end, the end. Every good thing that bubbles up in you that is a good idea is happening because it's divinely inspired. It's not your idea. It's Spirit saying, look, I want to express this good by means of you. Will you cooperate, please? I throw you these ideas all the time, and look what happens. No cooperation. So you're still in the murky mire at the level of your problems and your challenges and your ailments and all the rest of it. There is a way, there is a way, there is a way. And we are called daily to respond to that way. And that way is always something that's new and different. For it to happen, for me to assume the good that I desire, knowing that it's already mine, I have to be different. I must be different. How can I be different? Only in my thinking, so that I can be different in my feelings, so that I can be different in what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So that I can be what I am created to be. That's the way we do it. That's the way we do it. How do all of those people in the outer world achieve what they achieve? How did Ford achieve what he achieved? How did Edison achieve what he achieved, and so on? This is how they did it. They got the idea. It was a brilliant idea. It was an impossible idea. No way, people would say, could that happen. It's not possible. But they took the idea, they clung to the idea, they owned it, they claimed it, they said, I'm going to make this happen. This is going to happen. Because it's possible. It wouldn't have come to me if it wasn't possible. It wouldn't show up an idea if it wasn't a possible idea. There would be no place for these ideas to go if they weren't possible. What would be the point of it? So they took their idea. And do you know how many people came to Ford and said, we have tried and we have tried and we have tried, we cannot do this, it's impossible. And his response was, I want it done. And I know it can be done, so go back and start over again. And of course, eventually they found the way and it was possible. And what was impossible became possible. That's how they did it. They were called to an idea. They responded to the idea. And that's what you and I have to do as individuals. They claimed it, they owned it. They never stepped back from it. They never gave any credence to the naysayers. They wouldn't let it go. They wouldn't let it go. They were like the little engine that knew, I can, I can, I can. But how do we? This is what this week is about. We're asked to look at where we have been dropping the ball with regard to good ideas that come to us. Inspired ideas that come to us, genius ideas that come to us. What do we do with them? Where have they gone? How many of them have we realized? Have we realized any of them? Or do they just filter away? Because let me tell you, if we don't take them, if we don't run with them, don't be surprised that in 6 months or a year from now, somebody else has owned your idea and has brought it to fruition and is succeeding with it. Because that's how the law of mind works, the law of assumption. There's one mind, we're all thinking into it. If you don't run with your idea, somebody else will pick up on that idea and you'll look at it and you'll say, that's my idea. That's my idea. You see. So this week, let's look at all the times that we have dropped the ball on our ideas that someone else went forward with and succeeded with, and be ready and willing and open and available to jump on the bandwagon of the next new idea that comes to us and work that idea and not let it go. The process of being able to do that and come to an understanding of that is the same old process for any kind of advancement, any kind of change for the better, any kind of transformation. The law of assumption. Neville says assumption is everything. Assumption is everything. He says it is the boat that sails us across the seas of how to the shores of realization. It is the vessel that sails us across the seas of how, not getting bogged down in the how of it, to the shores of realization. And he says that it is with great conviction that you and I must assume this law and give ourselves up to it with great conviction. That's what all of the discoverers, explorers, and the great ones had. That deep, profound conviction that rose up out of a power and a passion of the idea that they had received. And they empowered the idea with that passion and went forward working on it. Knew that there's something more than me wants this to happen. There's something more than me wants this to be realized. There's something more working in me, working with me, and working through me to cause this to happen. Even the atheists have said, this is bigger than I am. This idea is bigger than I am. They caught that consciousness of it. So it's that conviction that has to be in place if you and I are going to assume the good that we desire. Now, once the conviction is there, the faith and the awesome awareness that I of myself don't do this, it is something greater than I am that's doing it through me, you come to the next step, according to Neville. And the next step is surrender, a word we all do not like. Surrender, because we are brought up on no surrender. That's what we're brought up to think and feel, no surrender. So it doesn't bode well with us to begin with, the idea of surrender. But all we're talking about in spiritual, in metaphysical surrender is surrendering all the negativity around it, surrendering the need to know how it's going to be done, so that in conviction and absolute faith in the creative process and the power and the presence of Spirit working within us and with us and through us, with that power and that conviction and that surrendering of knowing of myself, I can't do this, but I know that there's a power within me that can bring me through into this realization. You get what he calls the merging with the infinite power and the infinite presence and the infinite possibility of source. And when that merger occurs, you have a unified state of being, and nothing can stop you realizing you're good. But it's out of that mystical marriage of our surrender, our yielding to the law of assumption, and saying over and out, yes, I'm with you, I'm working with you, I'm agreeing with you, I am convicted that this is going to happen. And it's going to happen through and by means of my confidence and my faith and my trust in that which is greater than I am. And that's where we need to get with any good thing that you and I wish to achieve, and not to look at anything as possible or impossible, as big or small, but to look at it as a divine idea that has grown in me, that wants to be realized, and all is required is your absolute yes to it, your faith and conviction in it, and your passion in feeling that yes, this is already mine. And it is so now, very palpably, very present in mind and in emotion. And because it's very powerfully and palpably present in mind and in emotion, it has to show up in form. It must show up in form. That's the way the law of assumption, the law of life works. It must show up in form. If it's palpably present to me, convictedly in my mind and in my emotion, it's going to be so. It really, really is. So it's up to us to get ourselves into that state. But we're not going to get into that state by, he says, if you just show up, he says, with thinking and imaging and imagining without the feeling, you're just daydreaming, and it'll come to nothing. You're just daydreaming. It is the conviction and the feeling and the empowerment and that sense of it absolutely electrifyingly moving through you, knowing that, yeah, I'm onto something here, and it's good and it's happening, and it's happening now, and I'm good with it. I'm okay with it, and I'm saying yes to it. And it has nothing to do with how deserving I am, or how worthy I am, or how good I am, or how rotten I've been in the past. Nothing to do with that. It has to do with what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling right here and right now. It has to do, am I ready right here and right now for this to happen and show up in my life? Am I ready right now? Am I truly ready right now? But see, it's not going to happen without us being consciously and infinitely and tenderly and passionately engaged with our source in a way that absolutely causes us to be inflamed with faith and illuminated with inspiration. And in that state of knowing any great good thing can happen, and why not to me? And why not? Am I ready now? Of course I am. It's the way it has to be. Who are you just now? Where are you just now? What's going on in you just now? What's happening in your mind just now? What's happening in your emotions just now? What's happening in your body just now? Well, whatever it is, if you don't like it, you can release it and let it go. How? By exactly what we've been talking about. That's how. But it draws from us a commitment that has to be staunch and firm and real and immovable in its faith and in its trust. It draws from us, pulls from us that power that is within us and brings us to our knees as we realize this is so. Because when you're overcome with awe, you fall to your knees. You fall to the ground. The body gives way to the mind and to the spirit. The body gives way to the mind and to the spirit. Well, when were you last brought to your knees? When did you last fall to the ground in awe and in wonder of the power and the presence that fills you, that chose you to be its expression, that caused you to be a point of its power through which it could express itself in magnificent and impossible ways? When were you last brought to your knees in the recognition of that? When did you last flood your bed with weeping and drench your couch in tears at the awesomeness of it, like they did of old, the prophets in bygone days, in the Psalms and so on? This is what happens to us when we are passionately engaged with our source. This is not wishful thinking. This is not pie in the sky. This is not just fairy tales and stories that are not true, although there's a lot of truth in fairy tales and stories of that nature. This is real. People are experiencing what I'm talking about all the time. They have in the past, they are now, and they will forevermore. Why can't those people be you? Why not you? Why not you? You're equipped. You have everything it takes. You can. The question is, will we? Will we? Will we? This is the week that you and I are called to put it to the test, as the scripture says. Put me to the test, says source, and see if I will not open the floodgates of heaven to flood and shower upon you so many good things, there wouldn't be room enough for you to gather them all up. Store them. But there's something that has to happen before that. Because before that line in scripture it says, bring me your tithes. Bring me your tithes. And I'm not just talking about money here, please. I know we're in our pledge pot luck kind of program at the moment where we're ending up in a great celebration at our dinner as a result of our commitment to supporting the center here. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about all kinds of good that's unimaginable, that you could never even dream of. If you bring to spirit your givingness of spirit, your generosity of heart, your kindness in mind, your loving heart, and your understanding ways, and your ability to walk through life, leaving a very light footprint. Bring that to spirit, and all things else will be added unto you. Understand that you are the givingness of life back unto itself. That's how we get into really masterfully working the law of assumption. Through understanding that as much as I need, or seem to need, I have so much to give. I have so much to give. There is a shortage of love in the world, and yet you and I are full of it. Full of love. Absolutely full to the gills with love. And yet look at the shortage there seems to be. Now there's the crux. You see, it's not enough for you and for me to be following the orders according to this spiritual practice, that spiritual practice, and this spiritual practice, and the other spiritual practice. It's not enough for you and for me to do that faithfully according to every line. The whole 12 steps, or 9 steps, or 3 steps, or 5 steps, or 50 steps, or however many, but I follow them all to the letter. Well, Scripture says, if you follow them all to the letter and your life is still not wondrous, this is what will be asked. How have you lived? How have you loved? How did you give? Have you been kind? And it goes on. Those are the words of the Master Teacher Jesus. When everybody is so braggiosy about all the great good they've done, and they've donated to this and given to that and so on. But how have you lived? How have you loved? How did you give? Have you been kind? See, it's not enough just to do the spiritual practices. It's who you are while you're doing them. It's how you show up while you're doing them. It's how you're being while you're doing them. And all of the lack of kindness, all of the hoarding of love, all of the non-giving, all of the living that's negative gets in the way of our demonstrations and our realizations, our goals fulfilled, our dreams come true, and our desires happening. So it's as simple and as easy as that, my dear ones. But I have a feeling, there's a feeling in me today that we're understanding more fully the power that is ours and how we can harness it. And I'm feeling that there's a willingness in us to do exactly that. To be the best that we can be. To live from our best life. To live from our highest point of view. To live beyond and above all of the dross of negativity that keeps us anchored and bound and chained and impossible for us to go on. So this week, join me, dear ones, in asking the questions. How am I living? How am I giving? How am I loving? And how am I being kind? And to monitor ourselves with that, and to preoccupy ourselves with that. And then the negativity can't get to us. And then we can empower ourselves by engaging with that beautiful power and presence of the infinite, the source itself of all good, of unconditional love, of infinite kindness and compassion and givingness, and be in awe and wonder at it all, and come to our knees in that awe and in that wonder, having transcended into another realization and experience. It's yours for the taking. It's mine for the taking. It's ours for the saying yes to. Do we say yes? Yes. And so it is.